Now, and we can go ahead and get started. So Kyle, I'm just going to hand it over to you because you've made the agenda and know what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take it from here.
Sure. Thanks everyone for joining us on this meeting today. Just so you guys are all aware, my supervisor has also joined the call today, Colleen Brisnahan. She has taken over for Doug Jameson in our group, so she's just going to be joining the call, at least for today, and maybe it's in the future. So,
hi, Colleen.
Hi there, and I do have to jump off probably a little around 11:30 for another meeting, but I'll stay on as long as I can.
And so part of the reason for her joining the call today, Sarah had sent out an email looking for any additional assistance that CDPHE could provide moving forward with the 218 project. And so Colleen has offered to kind of sit in and provide assistance where she can. And so to kind of get right into it, I put the 218 East 7th Street property kind of project on the beginning of our agenda. As Colleen mentioned, she's going to have to hop off. So I kind of wanted to discuss that project. We meaning myself, Linda, Sarah, and Melanie had a meeting with the Indoor Environment Program, which is the CDPHE program that kind of oversees lead-based paint remediation and abatement. We had a discussion with them about how to proceed forward with this project. We had essentially discussed a few different options, whether it be enclosure of the existing siding with a vinyl or aluminum siding, or really the other option being a full abatement of the existing siding on the house, which would include removal of the siding using an abatement contractor and then installation of brand new siding at the property. Kind of the results of that meeting were the Indoor Environment Program suggested to us that this work group needs to first make a decision about how we want to approach this project moving forward, whether or not we want to go down what's called the lead renovation, repair, and painting program, which would allow an RRP certified contractor to install the siding over the existing lead-based paint issue, or the other option being to, like I said, do essentially a full abatement of the existing siding and its installation of the new siding. So those are essentially the two options presented to the group right now, and kind of up for discussion what we think the most appropriate course of action of the property is. I've been also, in the meantime, reaching out to RRP certified firms. I've reached out to 26 so far within various ranges of the Leadville area. I've gotten 3 interested parties that are willing to kind of look at the house and provide us with potentially some bids for the work based on the scope of going the RRP route and installing this, just doing essentially the siding installation on the house following HUD guidelines, including installing a dust-tight barrier membrane underneath the new siding and going down that route. I have received 11 no's, or essentially either a no, or they don't do work in Leadville, or they're just not qualified to do the project. I have 12 of the 26 folks that I've left messages with that I need to follow up on, kind of based on the results of our conversation today, if we do want to continue proceeding or pursuing the RRP option. And so I guess at this time, I kind of open it up for questions or discussions from the work group. Do you have kind of any questions about what our 2 options are, or anything like that?
Are the firms that you're talking to siding contractors?
So they are, just go back to my notes. So the 3 firms that are interested, one is called ECOS Environmental Disaster and Restoration. The second is called Serve Pro or Summit Lake Park and Eagle Restoration Systems LLC. And
So,
the third, what was that?
well, the issue that had come up for us before was the problem of, you know, traditional environmental contractors being able to handle the lead piece of it, whichever program we're under, but not having the expertise or the wherewithal to stand behind a siding installation and a warranty for that product on the house.
Right, and so that's one of the things that I need to make sure that these firms are aware of as we move forward with them, that, you know, we're looking for an RRP certified firm, but at the same time, we're looking for someone that's competent in siding installation. Based on the conversations that I've had with these firms, they at least initially seem like they're confident that they'll be able to, you know, complete the scope of work that I've discussed with them. But that being said, we're pretty much in the preliminary stages of, you know, talking to these folks. I did let them know that we were going to be having this meeting to discuss whether or not we're going to be pursuing this option, and that I'd be, you know, following up based on this conversation. And so I'm sorry, and the third one is Blue Sky Restoration Contractors.
It sounds to me like Melanie's question was a little bit more about a warranty on the siding. And that's something we need to verify if they're willing to provide warranty for their work, similar to what you'd get with a normal siding company. And if they're not, then I think it begs the question, is it worth going down this route?
Right, and so that is another component that, you know, a number of the firms that I reached out to brought up that point. They're like, why don't you just remove the siding and be done with it? And this group has had some conversations about that option, you know, and it's something that we could talk about a little bit more, but it could be that if we do decide to remove all the siding on this house, that we get ourselves into a much larger project than we're trying to get into. But it's certainly an option, and it's something that we can definitely do. It would make this process probably a little bit more straightforward if we did do, you know, the full abatement. But like I said, there's also that kind of unknown of what are we going to discover and have ourselves be liable to fix once we start, you know, pulling apart the siding on this property.
Do we have an idea of cost of a full abatement on this, just for comparison at this point?
I don't.
That's Colleen, that's what we've been trying to get.
Okay.
We've been trying to understand, you know, I mean, a lot of money has been spent at this property already, as Kyle has probably made you aware.
Yeah.
And so the hurdle that we were last trying to cross is, can we view this as a, you know, a regular siding installation that happens to be going over lead-based paint versus having to have a you know, Reg 19 lead certified firm do either, right? Because if we're going to do the full abatement, we need a Reg 19 certified firm. And if the siding installation was going to be viewed as an abatement activity under Reg 19, we still would need a Reg 19 certified firm to do that. The problem is there are no Reg 19 certified firms that can competently install siding and provide the proper warranty, right? So
Right.
That's where we talked with Laura Schumpert and Laura Maniak and her group about if we view this as not a lead abatement activity, but simply a paint stabilization activity, because we've already addressed the lead on the home, right? And the issue really is the new paint job is failing. And so in my view, I think this can be viewed as simply we're putting new siding on an old home that has paint failing on it. We're not trying to abate the lead. And if we do that, then we can use simply an RRP certified siding installer. And so it might be that we have to get an RRP, we have to get a siding installer who will provide competent workmanship, and proper warranties, RRP certified, if we can't find one that is. But
yeah, and so Melanie, when I first started reaching out to the RRP firms. I went through the 10 siding firms that were RRP certified first. And those were the first people that I reached out to. Unfortunately, a lot of them are out of the metro area and will not service Leadville. Some of the larger firms, Discount Windows, Discount Windows and Siding only services the metro area. Lifetime Windows and Siding only services the metro area. And so those two individual companies, they are reaching out to some of their subcontractors in the area to see if they'd be interested in the job. But at least going through those company headquarters based out of the metro area, they were not interested.
Right. So when you guys met with Laura's group, did they indicate that, I mean, once the lead-based paint siding was removed, if we went that route, does it have to be a lead paint certified company installing brand new siding after the abatement?
No.
Okay, so it's just the abatement piece itself. That makes sense. But still, I understand that's going to be extremely expensive to go that route. I guess the concern is if we have a normal siding company put siding on this house over existing siding, is that going to cause a problem with a warranty?
And it's not only just a normal siding company. Essentially, the direction that we got from Laura's group is that it needs to be at least RRP certified.
Yeah,
so
I get that.
And any siding company.
Right. Yeah, and I understand that. It's just, again, it goes kind of to the warranty issue, because a lot of times they want to strip off the old siding to be able to get the new siding on properly. And so
Right.
there may be concerns about a warranty. So that's something we have to look at. I mean, have some contractors go up and look at the house and see if it's something that they could even do with the existing siding there.
Yeah, and I think
Right.
that's exactly where we are, is
Okay.
identifying contractors who are qualified and able to do the work, and then having them give the pricing. Kyle had some abatement contractors come up there, and one declined, maybe two declined in the end.
Yeah,
Abatement contractor
ended
showed up
declining.
and they said, oh yeah, we can do this, but they're firms that I happen to know very well, and it's like, what are you guys doing? You're not a siding installer. Or you could do this, but are you going to warranty it for 20 or 30 or however many years? And the answer was no. So, the caution is contractors will tell you that they can do anything, but, Colleen, as you know,
Yes.
verifying that truly they are competent and will stand behind their work is the other issue. So, I got a lead on a contractor this week. I had a call on Monday with a construction company. He said, oh yeah, we can install new siding over, a lead painted old siding. And when I talked to him, in the end, he doesn't have his RRP certification. He's willing to get it. I don't know how much time that would take, but so that's kind of where we find ourselves. But the problem with this one, Colleen, is it's lingering, and the homeowner is becoming increasingly intolerant of the delay. So
Yeah, we've been hearing about that for a little while. Kyle's kept me in the loop on that. And I know, it's frustrating for the homeowner, but we're obviously as frustrated not being able to find contractors that are either capable or willing to do the work is something that it sounds like Kyle's been struggling with for a while, as well as the issues with the initial response from the air division being that it had to be lead-based paint certified even to install siding over. So I'm glad they've at least backed off on that discussion.
Well, they didn't really take a position. They said, you need to decide what is the purpose of your project and then proceed accordingly, which
exactly. So they essentially put it back on the work group, saying that the work group needs to first decide what approach that we're going to take. Are we going to take the RRP approach, or are we going to take the abatement approach? And then once one of those decisions are made, they can kind of help us, move forward with the project and give some additional guidance. They did give us guidance about how to proceed down the RRP route and how to proceed down the abatement route. Like the abatement route is it is more straightforward, but it'll be more costly, and it does have some more unknowns.
Right.
That's
and you still have to identify a siding company that'll warranty it after the fact, which is probably a little easier once the old siding is gone.
It might be easier because at that point, I'm not restricted by only reaching out to RRP certified firms. So that might make that piece of it easier, but there still would be the abatement piece, and there'd be sampling,
Yeah.
So Kyle, Earth Services and Abatement was up there, and Dave Newmeyer looked at that house. He probably has the information necessary to give you a price for abatement.
Okay, yeah, and I can definitely do that. Honestly, I haven't really looked into the full abatement of the side of things all that
Yeah.
closely.
I mean, I think in order for this group to make an informed decision, we need to start getting the numbers. Like, we have to know how much is it going to cost to abate that house versus, putting siding over the other. And is that even possible? To Colleen's point of, will somebody warranty siding over siding?
Mhm.
So, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I might suggest that you ask Dave if he'll give you a bid for doing full abatement. Because I know that's something that he talked to you about, and frankly, he called me and said, "Why are you not just taking the old siding off of the house?" So
I can certainly get those numbers. Like I said, I thought we were more leaning towards pursuing the RRP route, so that's why
I believe we are, but I think in order for the government entities to be able to make a choice, they've got to have full information. I don't know, Colleen, Linda, commissioners, you may feel differently.
No, I think we need that information, and also, I mean, we're looking at cost, more importantly, that time frame that this has been lingering for 5 years, that we haven't been able to address the quality of work that was done by the initial vendor or contractor. And I think once we might be able to get some of those numbers, although again, I think we had this conversation in October, hoping that we might be able to have this resolved by the end of last year, to no fault of yours, Kyle. I want to be clear on that. We started talking about alternative creative solutions to address, and really understand what the end goal of the property owner might be. And so I wonder if we might need to schedule an executive session to talk with legal to understand and outline exactly what all those options may be, because they're unprecedented as far as we've administered our program, and what the ramifications may be. I haven't talked to the property owner, because I know Kyle's been in close contact with her, and I certainly haven't mentioned any of these alternatives as we were focused on the siding. But I think it might behoove us all to, come up with a plan, including a longer menu of solutions.
No, definitely. And, I know Sarah and I talked about this yesterday about the potential going into executive session to talk about some of those alternatives. And, we certainly can do that today, or maybe schedule another meeting to do so.
If it hasn't been noticed, you can't do it today, Kyle. The commissioners have a very specific notification.
That's what I had a
obligation
feeling
that
it'd have to be a separate meeting.
And then there's a question of whether, outside, I mean, I'm legal counsel to the county, so it would be me and the county at a minimum. Chris, if she wants to participate, she's general counsel to the county. But, Chris and I probably need to talk about how we do this correctly if we're going to invite EPA and the state to be there as well. So
Okay.
Let's put that on Sarah and Chris and my plate to decide how to make that happen. Because it sounds like Sarah has some ideas that we definitely need to discuss. So before Colleen has to run, can we talk about the interior issue that has just been brought up?
Yes. So when I was up there in early December, the homeowner showed me some interior paint that was essentially being worn away due to friction. The specific area that she showed me is on the bottom floor going into the kid's bedroom. I took some photos of that kind of friction area, and then went back to the original assessment and the scope of work for the remediation of those areas. The scope did find that some of the the initial investigation did find that some of the door jams were positive for lead-based paint. That being said, the scope of work did not call for all of the interior door jams to be essentially abated. It had originally called for repaint over those areas that were, the paint was fair and it wasn't failing. And so I sent I sent out a few documents. The map document that I showed highlights what type of abatement was supposed to be done where. Now, all that being said, while the work was being done, risk removal did bring up the point that some of these areas may end up being, that didn't call for either chemical stripping or sanding of that paint, maybe friction point issues. So I followed up with my contact at risk removal, and he said that he's pretty sure that they did treatment of the door jam friction point areas so that no lead-based paint should be existing there. He's trying to confirm that with me. And so I do need to confirm that. But also based on the photos that I took and looking back at the old paint color, I don't see any evidence of the old paint in the friction areas that the homeowner is showing. And so kind of all that being said, I do think that the hazard was addressed. And I do acknowledge that there, some of the new paint has rubbed off in these friction areas, but I think the discussion should be that, there's only so much that we could do with these projects, and there's got to be some sort of homeowner responsibility and O&M and maintenance. And I feel like that this particular area, these door friction points kind of falls into that category. I went back through the LCCHP work plan, and unfortunately, we're pretty vague with the language in there that regarding homeowner responsibility for the paint components of these remedies. There's more language in there about the soil upkeep and maintenance, but it's pretty vague in terms of the paint. And so right now, I guess it's up to the work group whether or not we think that this is an O&M issue that, it should be the homeowner's responsibility, or if it's something that we want to try to address while we're addressing the exterior paint issue.
Who would be supportive of pushing back on the homeowner and saying that that's a homeowner issue? I mentioned that to you, Kyle. I think that the thought crossed my mind of this is a homeowner maintenance and recognizing these things, and this is not someone that needs to call a landlord to take care of something like that. So that would be my opinion.
And that's kind of my opinion too. Now, having said that, when the homeowner initially brought it to my attention, I wasn't as certain as I am now that those door jams had been treated, but I feel like they have been. And given the fact that I think they have been treated and repainted, and that this is 2 years since the work was done, and given that it's an old home up in Leadville, things swell and things rub against each other, and at a certain point there's got to be some homeowner responsibility in preventing that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we have wear and tear on our houses, and that's the homeowner's responsibility to maintain it. And it has been 2 years, and there is not a potential for lead dust because that had been removed from the door jams. So it's not a hazardous situation. So I agree.
Just by way of additional information, Kyle, when this issue has come up in the past, when Alyssa had your position, some of the things that this group had talked about in terms of, homeowner continuing obligations for maintenance of any, stabilization that this group paid for, that would be communicated by CDPHE to the property owner, either as in part of the final report that they get after remediation or something like that. We've recognized a couple of times that the language isn't as strong as it could be in the work plan, and maybe that goes on the list of things for if ever the work plan gets updated. But in the past, we've tried to deal with it through that kind of written communication at the end of the project to the homeowner saying, okay, here's what we did. Here's the report that gives you those results. And oh, by the way, here's a section that tells you, you know, basically it's your obligation to maintain these things going forward.
I agree completely, Melanie. I was hoping to make that point and also kind of maybe revisit if there's a threshold that we set in place. I think that's been talked about, and forgive me for not really remembering exactly what that language may be, but that probably is something we want to look at through this year.
Yes, definitely. I'm sorry. I was just trying to pull up another document. Yeah, I definitely agree. And, you know, I'll be honest, in this instance, I probably did not relay some of the information that, you know, regarding paint friction areas that I should have. But moving forward, I'm definitely going to make sure that is addressed.
It sounds like maybe this is a time to go ahead and have that conversation with the property owner and then follow up in writing with her about those areas.
Yeah, I know that she's going to want an update based on today's call. She knows that it's happening today. And so my plan was to reach out to her. And so, yeah, I can relay that to her.
All right.
So that's all I had on the 218, at least from an update standpoint. It sounds like I have some action items, getting a bid from an abatement firm for what the abatement, you know, side of this, you know, project would look like, and then you know, maybe potentially just getting some siding quotes to go along with that.
Yeah, and Melanie, Chris, and I'll get together to discuss the scheduling of the executive session and what we want to outline and have on the agenda there.
Yeah, and again, Kyle, when you get the siding quotes for the RRP contractors, ask them for warranty information and whether they'd be willing to warranty siding put over existing siding.
Yeah, my plan is to follow up with those three firms today after this call, just to make sure that they're, you know, A, still interested, and B, if we can schedule a time to go up and look at the property.
Okay.
Oh, and not to add one more problem, but I was looking at a picture of the house, and it's fairly close to the house next to it. I mean,
So we've dealt with this
logistically, is
issue.
it even possible to remove siding? Is there enough room in there to do that?
So this issue has come up multiple times during the project. The neighboring homeowner is, from my understanding, pretty willing to give access to whatever work needs to be done. But in terms of actual logistics, with either removing that siding or getting that siding in there, I think it's something that the guys doing the work need to, you know, kind of get eyes on and
Yeah.
kind of determine for themselves. But at least we have the access from the property owners, so that way they can stage equipment, kind of straddle the property.
And luckily that side doesn't have any issues, so it might not even need to be removed. The only protected side.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd imagine that if we're going to go down that route, we're going to have to remove all the siding, and it'd be a whole siding installation.
Yeah.
I also just want to mention for the group, sorry, Commissioner Marcella had a doctor's appointment. I don't know if she said that before she came on, or before I came on. Sorry, I was a minute late there, but that's why she's not with us anymore.
And then Kyle, is that a shake roof? Is it a wood roof?
It's wood shingles, and there's a whole section of the roof where the shingles aren't even there.
Yeah, that's a huge problem.
It definitely is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's what worries me about like removing all the siding, because kind of I feel like morally we should then say, okay, well, these other things should happen when that kind of activity happens, insulating or this or that, or, you know, redoing the sub material on the roof, or I don't know. So I think we have to have that detailed discussion on what we're gonna, offer and what that conversation is gonna look like with the homeowner.
Yeah, I think it's very important for this group to stay within our box.
Yes.
We have
Yeah.
to strictly stay within the bounds of what is allowed under the work plan. And to the extent we start to stray outside of that, it's going to cause all kinds of problems. So,
Yeah, I would agree. My only question was, is the roof issue causing a moisture problem? Because I know that was an early discussion with the
As far as we
lead-based
can
paint
tell,
abatement.
moisture is not causing
Okay.
the bubbling. The assessment that we had determined that the substrate isn't retaining moisture. And so that wasn't the cause of the bubbling that we're seeing.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like the homeowner just needs to spend some money upkeeping their property in general.
And unfortunately, that's just, it's not an option.
Yeah.
At least from my, conversations with them, kind of getting an idea of, what their financial situation is. That I think they've been talking about fixing that roof since I started on the project, and before that, and it just, I don't think that's an option for them right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is when the roof goes, the whole house deteriorates fairly quickly afterwards.
For
Right.
sure.
It's very
Yeah.
critical.
Get a 50-year warranty on the siding and the, the roof fails. It's kind of a little crazy.
Right. And kind of getting back to the warranty, the siding warranty thing, under HUD guidelines, they do require that we have a 20-year warranty on the siding work that would be done. So if we are going down the RFP route, that we do need to make sure that that warranty is in place.
Okay.
All right. Well, Colleen, I think I can let you off the hook unless you want to stay for the rest of the call.
I'm interested in Linda's discussion, but I do have to run to another meeting. So I'll just follow up with you later on the property owner switch for the repository, because I'm definitely curious on that.
The short news is everything's good. So
Okay.
Oh, well, there we go. That's all we needed to know. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Linda. All right. Thank you, everybody. All right.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
supporting, Kyle. Thanks.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
So yeah, Linda, if you can just give us a little bit more of an update. I know you'd shared
Right.
some email traffic, but I wasn't sure if anything else had conspired since then.
not really, but yeah, I'll go over my communications. So early in December, when we had an earlier call, and Sarah Mudge introduced me through email to the attorney for Leadville Silver and Gold. And so I guess what I'm talking about now is there was a property transfer from Leadville Silver and Gold to Salem Minerals. And part of that property is the repository. And so EPA does have a consent decree with Leadville Silver and Gold for access to their properties to conduct activities for maintenance. That consent decree was from the 90s. Part of that consent decree is that if there is a property transfer, that EPA be notified, that the new purchaser be notified. There's requirements in the consent decree. So I did contact Carol Bellhouse, and as it turned out, she is also the attorney for Salem Minerals, so she was well aware of that transaction. So I sent her a copy of the consent decree, the MOU for the repository, and then the operations and maintenance and closure plan for the repository. And so she told me that Salem Minerals was her client too. She shared that information with the owner of Salem Minerals. His name's Todd Hennis, and he also owns some other properties up in the Strayhurst Gulch area. So I've worked with him in the past. And she said that Todd was well aware of those documents and that he's okay with everything in them. So then I had a follow-up phone conversation. She put that in an email to me, and I called her, and she said, yep, he's okay with all the things in the consent decree. So I think we should just operate as normal. He's aware of everything that's going needed for the repository. I don't think we need any further documents because it is all covered in the consent decree. And Melanie, I can send you a copy of the consent decree so you can see it, and my communications with Carol. But I think just operate as normal. Obviously, if Todd has an issue with something, he's a very vocal person. I have a call with him later this month on something else, so I'll actually be talking to him, and so I think we're good.
So the consent decree wasn't specific to Leadville Silver and Gold. It's essentially transferable to whoever the property owner is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was specific to Leadville Silver and Gold, but it is transferable. That was written into it.
Okay.
So Linda, you don't anticipate any proposal of a change in that? I thought that there, okay,
No.
excellent. And for what it's worth, Michael Irwin at Public Works is still working to finalize that survey on the remaining
Yeah,
volume.
that was going to be my kind of question for the county, is what the status of that survey was. I've gotten renewed interest from the elementary school project about bringing 4,000 cubic yards of the material up into the repository. I essentially told them that we were trying to resolve those two things: the new ownership, and making sure that we had access, we could, there wasn't going to be any issues along that road. Then also we wanted to make sure that the survey was completed before any additional material was brought up. And so they're
Kyle,
looking
can you remind us if they did additional sampling to support the elementary school project, because they did not meet the criteria to take that material to the repository previously?
Right, and so they did additional sampling for their proposed plan to move the material to the practice high school football field location. But Linda and I have had some discussions about the potential for them using that material in that way, and we just don't feel comfortable approving that under CERCLA. And so, really, their options moving forward are to either bring that material to a landfill or to bring it to the repository. I don't think the additional sampling that they did was in support of bringing the material to the repository. It was more sampling at that secondary site. So, as of right now, that material still doesn't meet the trigger criteria, but pending the results of the survey and the amount of capacity we have left up there, I still support the material being brought to the repository.
Yeah, and so the reason we weren't comfortable is it is putting it in such close proximity to schools and not being able to guarantee proper operations and maintenance in the future. We just thought, in the long run, it was better just to get it up in the repository away from any potential human exposures.
Yeah, and so I had talked with, I had gotten confirmation that they would need an environmental covenant on that material if they were to plan to bring it to the practice football field location. And I had a conversation with their consultant, essentially saying that there's been concerns raised by some of the community members that even if we have a covenant in place with a work plan, that work plan just may not be adhered to. And so that, without having, a meeting and some, additional assurances from the district, we weren't comfortable with pursuing that plan.
Yeah, and I think that was discussed by this group in some detail, because they had not, they weren't even really going to maintain that in terms of irrigation or
exactly, and
like
I brought that back up to the consultant, and they essentially, in so many words, said they shared my concerns. So I think that's why they're trying to pursue the repository option.
Okay.
Linda, do you have a final grading plan of the repository?
We do, the state does. CDM Smith prepared I believe it's like a closeout plan that the state is responsible for implementing when the repository reaches capacity.
Okay, and then I think, because I just looked at the last email, and Kyle, we were both on there from Michael Irwin. I was interpreting his need as needing a grading plan for the construction of the repository so that he could know where and how the contours were originally.
And I'll double check, but I sent him a few PDF
Oh, you
files
did?
of the
Okay.
original design plans. And I thought that had met his needs.
Oh, good.
I'll double
Okay.
check that. He got that. It was when I was out in the field, and so I know I sent him an email, but I never followed up with him to make sure that's what he needed.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then, yeah, the original contours, and then what you're talking about, like
Yeah,
the requirements.
he needed like the original survey like data and some of the original drawings, and I sent him that information. So hopefully he has it. And
Okay.
that's how it's holding him up.
Great, thanks. And it might be helpful for him to see that final like closure plan.
Yeah, they should have it, but I could always send it over to him.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comments or questions about the repository?
No.
Well,
Thanks for.
Kyle, is there still a pending request from the old rail yard property owner for the repository?
Yeah, there is an outstanding request from them. I haven't heard from them in a couple months. The last time I did hear from Rick, they were still interested in bringing material up there. But given all that has been going on with us wanting to get the survey and the ownership, I haven't been in communication with them.
Okay, so we probably need the information on the survey, and then we'll come back to this group and make a determination.
Yeah, that was the thing I was most curious about, is what's our remaining capacity, and how do we want to approve material going up there given that capacity?
Yeah, I mean, and I think the group, the LCCHP as a body, if you will, needs to take a holistic view at the other needs in the community as well.
Yeah.
And the elementary school being a good one. I mean, a whole lot of material has been put in by one property owner, but there are definitely competing and future needs in the community as well. So I recently got some information to suggest the stockpile on that property may be bigger than previously advertised. So
yeah, so I had gotten some of that information as well. You're talking about on the railroad property, correct?
the rail yard property, yeah.
Yeah, and back when Rick did reach out to me, I do know that they were staging various soil across the property for various uses, but the material that they were looking to bring up to the repository was this one specific pile that had pretty elevated levels. I believe it was over 10,000 milligrams per kilogram lead. So I know there's a lot of construction work going on up there, and there's a lot of soil moving around. To the best of my knowledge, the material that they want to bring to the repository is it's a pretty specific pile that they have on the site. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is current blood lead levels. So I'll kind of pass it over to Heidi and Jackie.
And as I always do, I'll just give the reminder to please not mention identifying information.
Thank you. Yeah, so I believe everyone got the table that I sent. I guess just to start out with, I put question marks by the two people that we've been continuing, or I've been continuing to try to get back in to get checked. I can get no one to answer me back. Letters, calls, nothing. So I don't know, like, I know I've seen when I looked back into files, I don't have it right. Oh, somehow I rose my hand. I don't know how. Anyway, I don't know what to do. I mean, I see that somehow we've kind of closed cases per se with some people. I finally have also contacted the Center or West Park also with at least the, what is it? The 4864 case. That was the one that was like in the 26s, you know, right after birth or 8 months or whatever they were, 9 months, a year. And I haven't tested them, as you can see, since 2019 in June. And they were very reluctant then and said they didn't want me to call them and bug them. They would come in. So hence why they're not answering me. But I also don't know if they live here anymore. The schools are saying, I mean, they might homeschool at this point with COVID and all of the stuff, but they're saying they're not in the schools. And also on, just to kind of move down, the two people that I have, the Ask Center, that's what the CTR stands for, on 5207 and 5208, I can't get those people to come back either. And they said the 5208 or 5207 has moved, and possibly the 5208. They're not going to school is all I know. And they were pretty sure that the one moved. I really, you know, those are just people that I've kind of been trying to, you know, get back in this year. So, well, 2020 and then now this year. But I just wondered if anyone had any thoughts, or can you close out? I mean, that kiddo is 13 as we see the 4788, although we still would love to see that he is in the low normal range. But I guess I'm asking for suggestions or what we do.
It might be beneficial just to have maybe like an outstanding, you know, category or group where, you know, we have their last known data, and if somehow, you know, they come in, or, you know, you're able to get some additional information, we can kind of close that loop.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely, I mean, that's kind of what I've been doing, just having
Right.
those outstanding. Obviously, we have the information that I keep in the database, and so they're always in that.
Yeah.
But as in keep sort of feeling like I'm harassing them at this point because they're not they're not into it. So
do we usually send like a final letter of like, glad that this is resolved, you know, we won't be in contact, or
well, yeah, such cases as like an open case. I think that's kind of what I'm asking, like I suppose for a blessing of like, hey, maybe I just say, so, you know, we would love to be able to get your kiddos in here again, but however I would say it.
Yeah. I think that sounds fair.
But just to say, like, we've continued to, you know, ask for you guys to come back in the last 2 years. Clearly you're kind of done, and we understand that, but we still have a little concern. But if you're done, then
right. Well, yeah, we'll wait for you to contact us next or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would be in favor of that.
Yeah, I was looking through my file real quick, and I know that we had sent a letter back when Lynn was in the program, so a couple years back.
Yeah.
But we should still have a template letter that we could use to.
And I think I saw that letter when I was looking, but I can't at this second, of course, I can't find it, but I will look and see what she did. Thank you. And then 5190, as we are aware of that property, they got last tested in March, so they need to get back in. But obviously had come down substantially. And then I already talked about the 5207 and 08. I'm still kind of trying to see if they live here or not. The 5267 had come down kind of gradually in the last few months. So family is happy, but we'll be getting into retest here soon. And then the 5174 also, and the 5261. I mean, as you can imagine, it's just hard to get people in. Harder. It's always hard. But with just the extra of the pandemic. You know, people aren't real excited to come sit in a room with me because obviously immunizations, we can go out there and we can do the drive-through, whatnot. But if people are real standoffish, I say, you know, we can literally do the test and you can wait in your car. I mean, it can be like a minute, right? Or even, you know, so wash hands, do the test. So we have done that a few times. So we try to accommodate, but just kind of still just pushing people to come back in. And then the 5280, just working on them coming back in also here in February. But we continue, like in, I think it was November, I had 10 people. I mean, you know, we definitely decrease in winter always, but I felt like, you know, I'm glad. The center always helps, of course. Like, you've got to get tested before you come back to school after the new year. So they're really helpful. And so these kiddos that are not in the center anymore and / maybe they moved, but I know that's a big part of it, is they're not having the center kind of keeping them going. I guess that's all I have.
All right, and so it really doesn't look like any of these warrant any, you know, additional environmental follow-up or anything like that at this time. I'm honestly the most curious about the 5190 client, to see what their status is. And
Yeah, me too.
honestly, that would just help having that knowledge, but we can't force her to come in.
Yeah, and I think I was laying off of that for a bit because it
Oh yeah,
quite
no,
intense.
yeah, I remember that, you know, we had previous discussions where she was coming in, you know, pretty constantly, and you had to kind of talk to her about that. So,
and they don't want to get tested here. They go to the doctor, so because they do the blood draw, which I understand. I probably would do that too if I was having all the troubles. But I'll reach out to her and just say, hey, and you know.
Yeah, because honestly, I'd be curious to know what the kiddo's level is.
Yeah.
And, you know, if it has gone up significantly, then obviously, you know, the impacts to the paint is having a, you know, negative impact in their kids. And it's only that more, you know, impetus for us to go, you know, essentially above and beyond to make sure we rectify that issue. So,
well, always a thought too. And I know, I believe the in-laws, I don't know. What I'm trying to say is the in-laws house was always.
Oh, I know. And so the homeowner is caught on to the fact that we think that that's where the initial issue was. And now she assures me that they never go over there. And so I have to take her at her word for that. But
I don't know. I just thought about that. I was like, oh yeah, and then there's that.
Yeah. And so, you know, all the conversations I've had with her, she assures me that they're not going over there anymore. But well, I mean, you know, I hope not. That would be the right thing to do. And she's honestly, she seems really, you know, she's really educated on the issue. She seems to have her kids' best interest, you know, at hand. So I'd like to believe that she's not going over there. I just, you know, every time I talk to her, she insists that her kids' blood level is, you know, still severely elevated, and it's, you know, it's a big issue. And I guess I'm not seeing that from these numbers here. And so
she gets all of the kids tested, I think, still when she takes them in. And so the older two, I believe, are with the normal limits. So
yeah, and she hasn't shared it. You know, she hasn't shared that, you know, any of that information with me. So I have no way to really verify. And honestly, I don't think it's really appropriate for me to ask for that information.
Are we talking about 5190? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yes, we are.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just reach out to her and just say, hey, you can come in, or, you know, just get them tested, please. So hopefully it'll go good. That's all I got.
Thanks, Heidi.
You're welcome. Thanks.
So are there any other items that I didn't cover on the agenda that the work group would like to discuss?
Oh, so this is Linda. So this is a time of year when people get their budgets in, so that I can do, you know, wire for the year. So, you know, if you guys want to work on that, and it sounds like you're probably not needing money like immediately, or if you do, then we need to move this up quicker.
Yeah, so I'm going to, honestly, the budget has kind of fallen on the wayside while I've been trying to reach out to some of these contractors and pursue that. But it's on my to-do list to get that budget information hopefully by the end of this week. So I should have an idea of if we're going to need a request or not.
And then is Colleen on here? Nielsen? No.
No, Colleen from Public Health is not on here.
Yeah, I had to jump out of the last meeting early, so I think she's still in there. But we can pass anything on.
Yeah, reminder that, you know, I need the budget. And
Yeah.
then if we need it approved sooner than our next meeting, we'll just let me know and we'll figure out, you know, have a quick meeting to approve it or go through it before April, because I don't think we want to wait that long to get these
Yeah, no,
approved.
especially if we're, because I think I am going to need to draw down, or, you know, I'm going to have a budget request based on the potential work at the 218 property.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then I guess I had two other things. So I know that that the county wanted some type of community outreach event, you know, for that grant that you were working on. And with COVID, it kind of got pushed way back. And so I did invite Lisa McLean Vanderpool to be in the call with us today. So she's my community involvement coordinator. And the state has one too, but she was on maternity leave for a while, but she's back, I think. So if we want to start talking about, you know, what kind of event you guys want and how to do it, you know, I didn't forget about it. I you know, we still want to do that. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, Jackie, any thoughts or?
So Heidi, correct me if I'm wrong, but that grant did expire September 29th of 2020. So we're no longer within that grant period and can funds for that.
Yeah. And,
sorry, go ahead.
sorry. And they said with all the pandemic stuff, they're not going to redo the grant at this point, but I don't know. I know they said after the new year. I feel like it was after February. But then we'll know. We'd still love to do it, I think, no matter what, but I don't know how funding wise we could do it without a grant.
Can you remind me what the grant was for?
Yeah, so like preventative, basically, I can't ever remember, it's a big long title, but basically preventative blood lead.
Okay, and we were going to use some of that funding to do that outreach and education pieces on on overall prevention and OU closure potentially.
And kind of like past, present, and future kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. It was going to be amazing, Sarah.
You know, we could still do it with the trust money. So you know, part of the mission of this program is outreach. So, I mean, I do think it's definitely something worth pursuing and putting together.
Absolutely. And I think one of our big points also was to try to make sure that we are capturing that historical timeline so that, you know, new community members who have moved in within the last 5 to 10 years, you know, they can understand more of that historical aspect and be able to continue to hand down that information. We don't want the historical side of our Superfund site to be lost. We need to be able to have that information flowing forward to future generations too.
Yeah. So let's, well, have Colleen put some money in the budget for that, you know, and then we can have, you know, small group conversations with our community involvement folks and you guys and kind of outline some things. And then, you know, maybe it's something that, you know, hopefully COVID ends at some point this year. So maybe it's something we have ready when we can have more public participation in person. But, you know, because it's going to take us some time to put this together and have a nice presentation. So
I know you had that wonderful website for a few years, but you know, it sounds like that, you know, I kind of expired, and So that's where we're hoping to, you know, recapture that information and make sure that we continue to have that on file somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll definitely put it on the schedule for this year to like work on that, and we can certainly do that. It's definitely worthwhile. And then the second thing,
Bringing it up, Linda.
what?
Thanks for bringing that up. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I didn't forget. I felt bad. I got so busy with something at my other site, and I'm like, but this is important, and we need to like make sure that it gets done. And then the second thing is that institutional controls that, you know, we worked on the language and the IGA, and I know that we need to have like a some type of public event for that too. So I just wanted to get that back on our radar again. And, you know, part of EPA's mission is to delete parts of the site. And so I think part of that communication to the community could be, you know, what is deletion? What does that mean? What activities will EPA and the state be doing forever? Because there are things that we will be doing forever. We don't go away. We just go into a different phase on the site of maintenance and operating things. And obviously with the blood lead testing program and the mine pool, I mean, there's a need for a long time up there. So, and I can talk with Kyle, like how we want to, is like at a commissioners meeting, just having that on the agenda and just opening it up to the public. Is that an option, Sarah?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely an option. I mean, we can, you know, maybe we can identify, because we wouldn't be doing a large event, some like stakeholder groups like the Lake County Open Space Initiative, and do a city council and a board of commissioners, and maybe also, I don't know if we reach out and see if like Build Generation or Full Circle would have interest to try and gather community members for informational or help broadcast and promote an opportunity to do that in a town hall forum. But maybe we could do, you know, 4 or 5 presentations like that.
Yeah, and I know we had previously talked about, you know, kind of waiting until COVID was over to have a kind of stakeholder meeting like that. But I believe EPA, they're trying to do some of these deletions before the end of their fiscal year, right? What is that? Is that my?
Yeah, it was really for just the one operable Unit 11, the Arkansas River floodplain. I don't know if it's gonna be possible because our headquarters moved up a whole bunch of deadlines for that. So I think it's important that we, you know, get the information out to the community, and the community is comfortable with everything too. So I
think that, I mean, to at least have a start, even if I think like a LCCHP group with a lot of like land management partners and open space partners, and then a board of commissioners meeting, because we're recording and posting those meetings online, and we can kind of promote that on the website or point to it or keep it on, I don't know, a banner or something. That would be a great start, at least.
And I did with the COSI, so I did attend a meeting, and then I talked with Mike Conlon after the meeting about his specific questions with that. And then I've been playing phone tag with Laura Archuleta, and they had questions that were specific to the work that they're doing down there, and how it would be impacted, which it wouldn't be. It wouldn't impact their work at all. And so, okay, well, let's.
I guess, so I kind of have a question too. I know that, you know, part of what was part of the stakeholder concern when we initially were trying to pass the ICs was the sanitary sewer system and that water treatment plant. Do you know if if that permit was ever passed, or if there are still issues with them in that permit?
I think they're still in limbo and coming upon the end of an extension on their permitting, but I'd have to.
Yeah, I guess the reason I bring that up is, do you foresee that being a potential item that we would have to address in some way?
Yeah, let me reconnect with them, and I'm happy. I mean, if we want to schedule a meeting, would that be with Linda and Kyle and them to really understand? Because I don't think I know enough to answer those questions for you and understand the implications.
Yeah, I guess I'm just more curious about where they are in their process. If the permit has been finalized and there's no no additional community concern, then I guess it really wouldn't be something that we have to address. But if the permit hasn't ever been finalized, and it could still potentially be something that people point to when we're trying to pass these ICs, I just would like to know.
And Kyle, can you check with your water people and see
Sure.
if they?
Yeah, my understanding was their process was they were going to approve that permit, and then there would have to be an appeals process, or something along those lines. But I'll double check with them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because their big concern was mercury, and then mercury was not a contaminative concern for the Superfund site.
Yeah, it was
so
one of those things where I think that there's
kind of
just some
apples to oranges.
there's just some miscommunication, and the fact that we were trying to do the ICs at the same time that this public permit issue was happening, and is connected to groundwater, and the things that we were discussing are connected to groundwater, and so.
So there was some
and maybe a
confusion.
potential link between the contaminants of concern from the Superfund site and the mercury issues that they're having. But I think the Water Quality Control Division did a pretty good job at essentially saying that the issues that they're having at the water treatment plant aren't necessarily connected or pertinent to the way that they operate that plant. So.
Yeah. But it would be good to have that information if we're having a community meeting, so that we can at least be somewhat knowledgeable about it. If those questions came up. Yeah.
I think there's a sanitation meeting tonight. First Wednesday of every month. If you're so inclined to join, I'm not able to do that, but
there's a what meeting?
There is a sanitation district meeting tonight. But I will I'll reach out to at least one of the board members. They still don't have a replacement, which may be part of the challenge in communication for a manager, a director.
Then don't worry about it on your end. I think it might be a better idea for me just to reach out to water quality.
Okay. Great.
And then this isn't work group topic, but Kyle, can you give them an update on the contract with the Mountain College? Because I know that has it might have been a topic up there that people were talking about. I don't know. But,
sure.
So it's our water quality sampling that we do every year during spring runoff, and the state's contracted with the Mountain College to do that. But I don't know.
Yeah, and so we had previously we had been contracting with the Mountain College, and they had their I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head, but they had their field institute essentially. And right in and around the time that I was getting ready to renegotiate our 5-year contract with them, they disbanded the Field Institute and essentially had a reorganization within the Mountain College. And to be honest, it led me to have some concerns about whether or not they would be able to fulfill that sampling contract. There's a lot of back and forth between myself and the college. And ultimately, we did renew that contract with them, and have at this point I've had a couple meetings with them to to make sure that they're going to be able to perform the contract, to conduct the sampling that we need them to. And going into the 2020 is an important year for us up there sampling. It's what we call a synoptic sampling event. We do it prior to a 5-year review, and it's a much more robust sampling than we do on a normal year. It essentially almost triples the amount of sampling work that's required. And so, all that being said, I am confident that the Mountain College is going to be able to do the sampling. I do think they're going to need some hand-holding throughout the process. And luckily, we also contract with an environmental firm, Tetra Tech, and I've learned through kind of some communication with them that they are, they're an integral role in this synoptic sampling event. They help with some of the logistics and stuff like that. So I think, between myself, the folks at Tetra Tech, and the people that have been brought on at CMC, we should be able to conduct the sampling.
Kyle, where do you take samples from?
So it's all over the site. We do it's groundwater and surface water. So we have a network of groundwater monitoring wells all across the site, and then we also have surface water locations that we sample during runoff. I think the best way to show you is on a map. I can send you a map of the sample locations, but it's pretty widespread.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's weekly in a lot of locations during the spring runoff. So we try to catch it right as it's starting and then up to the end. And then some places are just monthly, but
Yeah,
it is very comprehensive.
yeah, and it's like I said, it's a pretty robust sampling event for the synoptic event. Tetra Tech does help with some of those the logistics of when we need to be up there sampling to catch the the optimal water quality that we're looking for, so that our samples are representative of what's actually going on up there. And we've also, I don't know how many of you guys know Jörg Gertsen, but he has also made himself available. He contracts with us through the Mountain College, and he also contracts with Linda. So he's intimately involved with the site. He's also essentially made himself available, given the changes that are going on at the Mountain College.
I think it'd be good to include him, yeah, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, he's definitely involved in it.
He's very involved. In fact, when I was up there last, the person that kind of has taken over responsibility of the sampling, she didn't even know where the sampling equipment was on the college property. And so after we had our meeting, he went with her to track all that stuff down, because he had previously worked there, and he's very knowledgeable of their process.
And then I just wanted to add, so when the contract with the Mountain College, when they just dismantled their institute, and then there was an option to look for other contractors to work up there and do this work, Kyle made a big point in making sure that it stayed within the community, because we think it's really important to have a community-based program. So he went like an extra effort to really work with the Mountain College and make sure that this program didn't die and that it's going to continue, because
honestly, it would have been easier for me just to contract with a normal consulting firm at this point. But I do think it's important to keep them on. And once they're back up and running and kind of understand the sampling, it is much more convenient to have a local knowledgeable staff up there doing the work, rather than someone that's going to be driving up from Denver to try to do it. So I think it's really important to try to keep some of that work local.
Well, yeah, no, I appreciate that. And for what it's worth, if CMC's operational changes or structure has changed so much where it's, you know, it's not so natural to include them in that. We are trying to, we're creating a partnership with the Upper District for water augmentation, and Yord works with the Upper District. So that might be a next option to kind of rely on.
Yeah, a lot of it's just going to be, I need to see how this year goes, how all the sampling goes, if they're going to be able to handle this moving forward. Like I said, previous years, I have been very hands off with the sampling. I haven't, had to assist them or anything like that. The folks that were up there knew exactly what they're doing. This year is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be up there during the spring, probably actually taking samples with them just to help out. And so we'll just kind of see how it plays out.
Yeah, this kind of sounds like a good opportunity, Sarah, for public health and for county commissioners to also work with CMC and just try to help stress the importance of that program and that.
Yeah, no, I think I understand it because it's not an insignificant amount of money that we give them annually for this work. And so I think they are very keen on keeping the contract. And so I'm hoping that they can do the work.
Do you want to have like a kickoff? Well, wait, this is COVID. I'm sorry. That's the that's the social chairman in me, but I thought it might be nice to have like a kickoff with the commissioners and the health department, go up to the mountain college, and then they can meet, I haven't met them yet, and just kind of.
Yeah, so.
But we can maybe do a Zoom or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can definitely talk to them about something like that, because honestly, I owe them a follow-up. We had discussed me going up there to meet with some of the potential samplers to go over sampling protocol and that sort of thing. So I can bring that up to them about maybe having some sort of kickoff between some of the stakeholders.
Yeah, because I think it'd be good for the students too to meet people actually working like in the field. It'd be good for them to meet us and us to meet them, and might be a sharing opportunity.
Yeah, it might be one of those things where it maybe happens during the summer sampling part of it, not the earlier sampling. I know when I was up there, they had a bunch of restrictions about the students and making sure that things were all social distance and trying to avoid essentially them all coming down with COVID. So an in-person thing up there right now probably isn't going to happen, but I'll talk to them about it. I'm sure we can plan.
Yeah, maybe, or I guess it could, instead of a kickoff, it could be a season ending, let's think of something, because I think it would be good.
I'm hoping by end of summer, most of us have gotten a vaccine, like things are, but who knows? Honestly, who knows?
So did the health department, did you guys get shots? Did they get them to you guys? In the county?
Lake County, yes.
Yes, we're vaccinating, and we did get vaccinated.
Oh, but awesome. Yeah. That's great.
Working on that. I did have something to add that I totally forgot about, but I had it written really largely for me not to forget, is that dreaded XRF gun subject.
Yes, and I'm sorry. I haven't done a lot of follow up on that. I did send an email, but never heard a response back.
Yeah.
I will put it back on my to-do list. I'm sorry. I haven't followed up on that.
No, I mean, it just came to me. Definitely. Yeah. But we just would like to do something with it.
Yeah,
for someone else.
But we're not looking forward to, continuing to kind of keep up all those certifications that are required in order to use the XRF gun. So
do you guys have is there a deadline coming up where you need to renew a certification or anything like that?
No, we're kind of allowing them to expire. Like I said, we're taking the XRF license because we have to, but no, we haven't had to have any home evaluations or home screenings for a while now, but it's not making it high priority to try to maintain that program.
But obviously that's the point, is that we don't use it.
Right. And that does remind me there, I had an additional to-do item from one of our last meetings that I want to give an update on. The work group had asked about recouping costs for the paint work that was done at the 218 property. I've shared the state buildings contract with my site attorney, and he's working on coordinating with some of the other attorneys at the AG's office to look at the contract and see what, if any, costs we could get back. It does make things a little awkward because, as we go, through these issues at the house, I have reached out to risk removal to try to confirm, how some of the work was done and stuff like that. So if we essentially try to recoup the cost and sue them, they may not be as willing to, work with me in the future, trying to get some of these answers. But like I said, I have put it in my attorney's court to see what options, if any, we have to recoup some of that painting cost.
Kyle, and I know that people, I don't think, well, let me back up. I don't think anybody said we want to sue risk removal.
Right. No. Yeah. I'm not saying that, but like, and Dave didn't really have an answer for me when I brought this to him about like what would be the path to recoup that cost. I just bring it up to say that it may make that working relationship a little awkward moving forward if we do.
Yeah, and I know that I had mentioned, something around this topic in the past, and it's more in line of knowing, are there claims? Have they expired? And it's the state's contract, so they would be the state's claims to bring.
Right.
But that's why I mentioned it to you. The other thing to keep in mind is if David thinks there's anything there, and who knows, at this point, we don't know if Risk did anything wrong, right? But if they did, and if there's abatement that's needed, might they, decide to do that work at little or no cost versus having to be asked to pony up to pay for something else. So it was more of a, I was just sort of issue spotting. I'm obviously not your lawyer, that, but it's like, if there's a claim there, somebody should, make a determination as to whether they need to preserve that or assert it or what it is. But anyway,
right. And like I said, I forwarded Dave our state buildings contract for that work. It's just not his area of expertise, and with all the holidays and everything like that, I haven't gotten an answer from him. But it's on my list of follow-ups to make. You'll let the worker know kind of what the result of that conversation is. And that's all I had. If anyone else has any other things that we haven't discussed today, feel free to bring it up. Otherwise, I guess we can move to scheduling our next meeting. And let's see. So I'm looking into April. The first Wednesday in April is the 7th. Does that work for folks?
Yes.
Then I will tentatively put it on the schedule for the 7th. And if we need to make a change, we can definitely do that.
And then Melanie, so on the budget, can we do an email vote or does it have to be in person?
I don't believe you can do an email vote.
Okay.
So you may have to schedule a separate meeting for that.
Okay.
I don't know, Sarah, are you guys doing any votes via email right now? I mean, with COVID, I assume not.
No, we are, but it's easy enough maybe to set up a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, Linda, they'll have to give proper notice,
Okay. So I'll wait to get the budgets from people first, and then I'll set up the meeting because I don't know how long it'll take to.
What's your timing of when you need that to be approved?
There is no, it's more just when people need the money. Like,
Okay.
so if, yeah, and then once it's approved, it just takes me like a week to get it processed, and the money to the counties or the state. So,
That usually comes from Colleen and Kyle.
Yeah, two separate budgets, one from the state side, one from the health department side.
Yep, and I'll work with Colleen and make sure that we get that.
Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah, the main thing I need to do is confirm with our accounting folks that my numbers are right. And then it shouldn't take me very long to put together the budget.
do we want to just set like February 3rd or something for like
Yeah,
a
that
half
would work for me.
hour? And that'll give like 3 weeks to get the budget to, and I can get it out to people. Will that work?
That works for me.
Sarah, what's a good time?
You're muted, Sarah.
Thank you. Looks like Kayla has an appointment at 11. So if we could do it before or after 2 that afternoon, but maybe we just want to do like 10 or maybe even, actually maybe even 9. I don't know if she has to be in transit to get somewhere or not. So could we do 9 o'clock on February 3rd?
That
Yeah,
works for me.
okay, let's do that.
Okay,
And
Jackie.
It
No.
might only take 15 minutes to,
Okay.
it wouldn't be that long.
Okay.
'Cause I'll get the budgets to everyone ahead of time, and because normally, I think the county sends it to the state says they approve it, and then I send it out. So anyway, we should have time. If not, we'll just move it to a different time.
Is that obvious that that's something I don't need to be on?
Yeah, you don't need to.
Okay, because we're
Unless you
doing
want.
COVID craziness. I just didn't want to assume. Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I believe Colleen has meetings that day, but I can cover whatever she needs me to.
Okay, or we can move it to a different day if that's better.
I think it should be straightforward.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
probably not going to matter what you do.
Yeah.
For her.
I'm
Okay.
gonna ask for $3 million and just take all the money.
That's
So.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Nice to see you all. Happy New Year.
You too. Bye.